Not morning. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope everyone's doing well today. Now, personally, I prefer to have a nice ice-cold drink, but I'll have to settle one that is barely cold. There we go, much better. But this isn't what you've come here to hear or see. What I now want to talk about is the police themselves, because there is our Home Secretary, who is just as big of a traitor as Keir the Traitor Starmer himself, who has basically come out and said that people have lost respect for the police, which she's absolutely right. But more chillingly, she goes on to say that we need to basically go out of our way to make the people respect the law and our police. Well, this is going to be wrong on a number of different occasions. First and foremost, the one most important thing about the law is that it needs to be exercised equally. Not, here you go, have a little bit here, and I'm going to dump the rest of it over here, but it needs to be spread balanced. Completely fair, completely balanced policing. Not the current two-tier policing we're seeing now, where if you're a patriot or a concerned parent and you want to peacefully protest, you run the risk of having the shit kicked out of you or beaten out of you and bitten by guard dogs, attacked by horse guard police, and basically beaten into submission. Whereas if you're part of Islam, you can have the police come up to you and say, please discard all your weapons at the mosque. Basically, they're telling them you can keep your weapons and we won't charge you. Well, last time I checked, that doesn't seem like a very fair balance of the law to me. That seems like, as I said before, two-tier policing. Something that Yvette Cooper should be very familiar with, because she's clearly seen it, and the media are now basically trying to label us all as far right, and the government is saying that it's now illegal to post any videos of these protests. And the problem with that is much like Yvette Cooper's statements about how we must respect the police, it's all going to blow up in their fucking faces. They think that by threatening us and instilling fear into us, that we're going to respect the police. The number one thing to remember about respect is that it is earned, not given. And you certainly can't coerce it. That is the one thing, the one basic principle that every person, no matter what country you're in, should be imbued with that value. Could you imagine if I grew up and my mum wasn't being respected by me, and I was like, nah, fuck you, mum, I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want. She'd kick me out of the house, first and foremost. I'd probably be beaten black and blue for even saying such a thing to her, and I probably wouldn't be receiving anybody mercy at this point. But this isn't about my mum. This is about the police. This is about Yvette Cooper's statements. This is basically about standard principles here. And what it boils down to is, if you go out of your way to beat someone over the head, for example, you can't then expect them to respect you afterwards. It's like, thank you for hitting me over the head, sir, I really appreciate it. No, they're going to be like, I'm going to fucking kick your teeth in. Like, you can't expect them to show you respect if you're trying to get their respect through fear, intimidation, and threats. All that's going to do is piss the public off even more, and it's probably going to result in even more riots. But of course, the mainstream media won't tell you this, and nor will he. Anyway, the mainstream media won't tell you this. You know the drill, folks, because, say it with me, it doesn't suit the narrative. Don't worry, it will get cleaned up afterwards. I do tidy my house. But back on point. If you end up disrespecting the British people, if you end up treating the British people like your own personal little doormat, You can't really be surprised if they start to get pissed off with you. Likewise, my message directly to the police. You cannot expect us to show you any respect at all, or respect what you're doing, if you're going out of your way to beat the shit out of patriots and concerned parents who worry about the kids and their kids' future, whereas with Islam, you treat them with kid gloves and even say to them, you're okay to keep your weapons. When we all know deep down, you'd be confiscating our weapons if we had any. And there were a select few occasions where some of the, how do I put it, the less educated, the less intelligent, shall we say, individuals on the right wing decided to bring weapons alongside and participate in the violence and the protests and all that shit. Now, let me be clear. I'm not saying every person on the right wing isn't intelligent. Besides, I've only got 2 brain cells in here myself. But I digress. This is more about the people who are basically using what happened with the 3 young kids that died, God rest their souls, on the back of some nut job. Whether he's a Muslim or not is largely irrelevant at this point, because the bottom line is, whether it's a Muslim, a Christian, a Hindu, a Buddhist, a black, a white, or yellow, or gold, or whatever, they're always going to be a scumbag, in my eyes. Because no one who is even worth an iota of credibility is going to go out of their way to stab the most defenseless beings other than babies. What say you? But the way I look at it is the police have been actively pandering to the left wing. Kid glove approach. Please calm down. Please don't do that. Please return your weapons to the mosques, etc., etc. Whereas if we get even slightly excited, or even step a couple of steps forward, not even try to attack the police will come in with batons at full force on us and try to beat the shit out of us. Or they'll set the dogs on us. Or they will find some other way to screw us over. They usually like to kettle British people. They kettle them, split them up, divide and conquer. The mainstream media don't want to admit that. The police don't want to admit that. The traitorous government does not want to admit that. Because that would completely destroy their credibility at the end of the day. You cannot expect people to show respect to the police, Yvette Cooper, if they aren't even prepared to treat us as basic human beings. Let's put you in that situation, Yvette Cooper. This is my message directly to you now. Let's put you in that situation. Let's put you in a situation where you are part of the far right and you don't like the way the country is being run and you're worried about your kids, and you probably have kids for all I know, and you want to protect them from the harms that lie ahead. Would you put up with being beaten over the head with a baton, or abused by the police for being concerned about the kids? Why don't we put you in that situation? Put you in the situation, Yvette Cooper, and we'll see if you sit there and say, thank you ever so much for beating me over the head, or if, much like the vast majority of the British public, you're going to get fucking pissed off that you are being persecuted by the police that are supposed to protect you. I think I know what my money's on, Yvette Cooper. You need to start understanding it from the other side of the perspective, rather than go to the usual dog-whistling bullshit that is calling us far-right, violent, racist thugs. Because the vast majority of us are not that. The vast majority of us condemn racism, condemn inciting hatred, condemn the violence, condemn the riots and going around looting and pillaging, and hearing about Benjamin the Bastard Buttersworth saying, oh, what about the people who went and robbed Greggs? Like, I condemn that shit, but you cannot keep tarring every single person in the right wing with the same brush. In fact, most of them aren't even right of politics. They're centre, if anything. And yet here you are with the police saying, we must get them to respect the law. No, you need to respect us first, and respect is earned, not given. Remember that, Yvette Cooper, and Norwich Police as well. I actually am fucking angry with myself as well, because it turns out there was an anti-racism protest in Norwich on Saturday. I fucking wish I could have gone to that shit, but I didn't know about it until I found out yesterday evening when one of the UKIP councillors ended up giving them a good grilling. And then, of course, because the NPCs don't have any justifiable argument, they resort to saying, "Nazi scum!" Which, last time I checked, isn't that in and of itself a slur to use against the supposed far right? Isn't it pretty slanderous to call people on the right wing, or anybody for that matter, a Nazi? I may have said that Keir the Traitor Starmer has made the Nazis look like good people, but I've never actually gone out of my way to call Keir the Traitor Starmer a Nazi. A fascist? Maybe. A communist? Most absolutely. A traitor? Oh, unequivocally. And I think nobody's going to agree with me on that one. But to call people Nazis, you're implying that they're actually okay with the gassing of the Jews. That they're okay with committing war crimes, that they're okay with what happened with Poland being invaded and then they tried to take over the West. And you want us to respect the police when these fucking traitors in the police won't even do their duty and arrest the real inciters of hatred, the real violence causers, the people who are swinging machetes around? How can we respect that? Be honest. How can you expect the British people to show respect to a two-tier police force that has no respect for the law themselves because they let these people get away with blue murder? They have no respect for the British people that they are supposed to protect and serve. And they clearly have no respect for their own standards as far as what they're supposed to be doing is concerned. The police, last time I checked, is supposed to be apolitical, i.e. they're not supposed to take sides. They're not supposed to have a particular alignment. I'm now thinking of Dungeons and Dragons, lawful evil, lawful good and all that. Anyway, they're not supposed to have any kind of alignment with anyone. We should be able to go onto the streets and say, well, we're not sure whether they're on this side or that side. And that's the way it should be. We shouldn't know what they're going to be like. But the sad truth is, over these years that have gone by, we have continually seen the British police and our traitorous establishment bend the knee to Black Lives Matter, appease the LGBTQ community with pride flags over their faces and fucking rainbow-coloured cars. We've seen them appease Islam and bend the knee to them and protect the Muslim rape gangs that are in our country. And we have seen them constantly persecute ordinary people like Tommy Robinson based off of who they are rather than what they've done. Leeds needs no further introduction. I've covered it many, many times. Covered a grooming gang case where the trial was already over, and he asked the Muslims up there who were now convicted rapists and groomers, how do you feel about your verdict, sir? He ended up getting arrested later down the line, and they lied about it, breach of the peace. They then turned it into contempt of court, even though it was categorically shown beyond to the inclusion of every reasonable doubt that Tommy Robinson did not break the reporting restrictions or contempt of court, because everything he had said was actually on the BBC's, or in general terms, already in the public domain, which is something, of course, the mainstream media is going to do everything they can to omit from you. They don't want to tell you the truth. The police don't want to do their job. The traitorous establishment doesn't want the British people rioting because it basically exposes the treachery of what they're doing. That's what it boils down to, folks. They don't want us to be able to have our own views, our own opinions, freedom of speech. They are continually to push this false narrative, I guess, if you will, that we actually live in a democracy. I don't think we live in a democracy anymore, quite frankly. You know what I think we live under? A regime. Kim Jong-il the traitor Starmer. That's his regime, and he is ruling this with an iron fist. Come and arrest me, Keir the traitor Starmer. Prove me right. That's the thing. He's in a lose-lose situation at this point, and he has done in weeks what Rishi had to do in years, i.e. destroy the party. And in this case as well, obviously destroy the country. But more specifically the party. Because Rishi, yes, he was a disaster. Let's face it, he was an unequivocal disaster. Completely destroyed the Conservative Party. But you know what? I will give Rishi credit for one thing and one thing only. He at least didn't try to trample over our human rights. And you know what? And I say this ironically, hindsight is 20/20 vision. But anyway, I'd rather have Rishi the slippery Sunak in power for another 5 years than even put up with Keir the traitor Starmer for another 5 minutes. And a lot of people will agree with me on this much. Keir has done more damage to this country in weeks than the Tories have done across decades. Yes, the Conservatives are all but unelectable at this point, but I think Labour at this point, they're dead in the water. They are completely dead in the water. You're expecting us to accept uncontrolled immigration, which is already screwing our society, our economy, our jobs, our Christian values, and you expect us to tolerate Islam taking over the West. Like hell am I going to have that. Like hell am I going to allow traitors to continue letting the enemy in while he holds the fucking gates open. A vote of no confidence is needed, or better still, the king needs to prorogue Parliament. He needs to recall Parliament. Because right now, Keir the traitor Starmer is not doing the wishes of the British people, and he is actively endangering this country. He is a dangerous, dangerous man. I feel like I'm Yusuf now. Oh, sorry, useless. And I definitely know I was right second time this time, so sorry guys. But anyway, Elon Musk has gone after Humza Useless, calling him a scumbag, which, quite frankly, Elon's right to call him that, because that is what he is. He's a racist scumbag. And how funny is it that Humza Useless wants to project his racism onto Elon Musk and call him a dangerous man? We all know who the real dangerous men are, Humza Useless. It's you and radical Islam, and of course Keir the traitor Starmer and his little group of cronies. You are men and women of forked tongues, made of gold, that speak gold, but come out with such shit. Bluntly speaking. You tell us we need to respect the police when the police don't even respect us in a basic manner, let alone on a lawful manner. How time and time again we see them enforcing TV license fee goons, going there and what they're supposed to be doing is keeping the peace, when a lot of them actually side with the TV license goons and basically hold the fucking door open for them. But again, that's something the mainstream media aren't going to tell you. How we have police that are siding with Islam, who they would never, or I should say almost never, because they have done it a few times before. They're clearly capable of doing it, but they just choose not to in 99 cases out of 100. But they could crack down just as hard on Islam as they crack down on the British patriots and parents who worry about their kids. But Yvette Cooper wants to sit here and be like, you will respect the police. No, Yvette Cooper, you will respect our wishes and you will respect us first. Respect works both ways. And if you want me, or any Indigenous British person, to show you, the traitorous establishment, or the police any respect, you will treat us with the same basic human rights you expect us to give you. Don't like it? Again, come and fucking arrest me and prove me right. Because unlike a lot of people, I'm not afraid to say it how it is, Yvette Cooper. I'm not afraid to say it how it is. I'm not going to mince my words. I'm not sugarcoating a fucking thing. Unless it's my tea in the morning. Anyway, I'm not going to sugarcoat a fucking thing. You need to learn to respect us, British people. We put you in that power. We are the ones who pay your fucking wages, Yvette Cooper. You need to learn some respect for us. Because if it weren't for us, you and your little traitorous establishment would have 0 fucking seats in that Houses of Treachery, Parliament. Or maybe I was right first time. Just remember that, Yvette Cooper. You owe us far more than we owe you. And I'm never going to change my mind on that shit. That's the thing. I will never appease lefties who want to say you need to apologise for what you said. Because that's what these NPCs want. They want you to show weakness. They want to show weakness and then they can drive a knife into you. That's what they do. They want to have you say sorry so that they can take the knife, dig it into your chest, and then twist. Those are the kinds of people we're dealing with right now. The police are no different, except for the fact rather than a knife, it's some fucking 6-inch long, 8-foot long steel baton that they want to beat the shit out of us with. Or better still, shield bash us with their little riot shields. We will start showing you respect when you respect us, the British people. Because if it weren't for us, as I said, Yvette Cooper, you wouldn't have a job. You wouldn't have a position in power, and you would be an NPC roaming the streets, basically a lefty with no credibility. Just like Keir the Traitor Starmer. Keir the Traitor Starmer wouldn't be in power if it weren't for the NPCs, and let's face it, a lot of the votes come from Islam as well. We know this. Well, hell, we know some Muslims end up getting arrested and charged for postal electorate fraud through the postal vote. But that's something you don't want to admit either, is it, mainstream media and Labour government? Because that would damage your reputation. Anne-Marie Waters did a pretty good job of covering this. It's a shame I don't see her channel anymore. Or maybe someone can point it out to me. I don't know. But what I do know is that we have an establishment that thinks they can be just given respect. I am never giving you my respect. The only way you get my respect is if you earn it. Until then, Keir the Traitor Starmer, fuck you and your Stasi, fuck you and your corrupt traitorous government, and fuck everything the pair of you stand for. As I said, I will be the voice of those who are afraid to speak out, or are worried about losing their jobs, or are worried about this, that, and the other. I will be there to say the truth and say it how it is. Don't like it? You know what to do. But by doing so, you'll only prove me right. And I've already got that video, little arrested video, ready to go if you dare to do it. So they'll find out, and they will know exactly where to come to show their support and put pressure on you traitors to stop persecuting people who are merely concerned about their country. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I condemn violence. I condemn looting. I condemn the attacks on the mosques. I condemn them. But I understand why the people have done this. Because at the end of the day, there is a lot of people, some of them misguided, who are fed up of the establishment not listening to you. Oh, sorry, us. We are sick of politicians who get voted in by us, who then decide to say, nah, fuck them, fuck the lot of them. And basically say, we said we're going to be the party of the working class. Oh, we're going to be working them, all right. The working class, their arse is going to be grass. That's basically their mentality. They have stabbed the working class and the British people in the back. And I don't think anybody is ever going to forgive them for this. Mark my words on it. They decided to make everyone the enemy. And I think it's going to really showcase how much it's going to backfire on them in the future. But I don't think we've got 5 years to wait. I think our only hope right now of getting any kind of peaceful resolution out of this is if a vote of no confidence is done, which I don't think the Labour government are going to do because they're going to support the socialism he pulls, or the King prorogues Parliament, recalls Parliament, and gets a general election going. Because I don't see any other way this is going to get resolved peacefully. Because that's what I prefer. I prefer a peaceful resolution. But if the King doesn't do that within the next 3 to 6 months, 12 at most, or a peaceful resolution isn't done within those 12 months, the only thing people are left with after that will be a violent revolution. I've said it before, I will say it again, I don't want it, I don't advocate for it, but when you back the people into a corner, where are they meant to go? Even a cornered rat will show its fangs when cornered. Let me be clear, I want to be, as said, I want a peaceful resolution. I want to believe that Tommy Robinson, Mark Toosey, Richard Inman, Paul Thorpe are correct on all this. I want a peaceful resolution for it. The place I disagree with these people on, I don't think we've got 5 years to wait. I've said this many, many times. I cannot stress it enough. We haven't got 5 years. We'll be lucky if we've got 1 year. It's down to us. We've got to do something about it. I prefer it, as said, to be peaceful, but we need to keep applying pressure to the traitors in the houses of treachery, because that's the only way we're actually going to be heard. If we resort to violence, well, we've already seen the riots. It's going to set Tommy's movement back massively. I don't want that. I don't advocate for the violence, and I never will. I don't advocate for the looting, and I never will. I don't advocate for attacking the police, as much as they've been an absolute bunch of cunts over the last decade or so. But I will never advocate for violence against them, because that does nobody any favours, and a lot of the people who are on the front lines are ordinary people like myself, probably a lot fitter as well, and not looking like two people, and not having a pair of racking bloody good tits, but I digress. Like, in all seriousness, they're normal people. Like, I accept that. The main people we need to be pissed off within the police are the ones pulling the strings. People like Mark Rowley, the superintendents, Sadiq Khan, Keir the traitor Starmer. We need to be making sure our anger is directed at those fuckers, because they're the ones who genuinely deserve it. Not the ordinary copper who is just doing their duty. They're doing basically what their boss tells them, because their hands are bound, put simply. Their hands are completely bound on the back of this. Do you think they want to lose their jobs? Of course they don't. Do you think I want to lose my job? Of course I fucking don't. But I'm not going to stop I'm not going to stop putting the truth out there. I'm not going to stop saying what I'm saying based on fears of losing my job. And I've already made quite clear in a few videos, if I do get dismissed by my company based on my political views, there's going to be hell to pay because I will be exposing them. I hope it doesn't come to that, of course, because I want it all to be civil. But at the end of the day, this is the bottom line. You don't get to demand respect from us, Yvette Cooper. The police sure as shit don't, and Keir's traitor Starmer sure as shit doesn't. I am never going to conform with your bullshit laws, including now you're going to fine me for swearing on the street. As I said before in the other video, and I'll say right here, Keir the traitor Starmer, you can fuck off right now. That is never happening. I will say what hundreds, if not thousands, if not tens of thousands of British patriots are just gagging to say right now. Because I'm not afraid to say it as it is. And you, Keir the traitor Starmer, need to think very carefully about your next move. You have already antagonised the British public immeasurably. You do not want to put a civil war on your hands, because the blood will be on your hands, and you and only you will be responsible for what happens. Anything happens, you only have yourself to blame. If anything happens to the police, they only have themselves to blame. If anything happens to Yvette Cooper, she only has herself to blame. I'm not advocating for violence against all three. Let me be absolutely clear on that. But what I will say is that if they continue to poke the Russian bear with a stick, they cannot be surprised when the bear reacts and decides to maul them to pieces.